good afternoon, dear colleagues. We continue our working day, and now I give the floor to Deputy Chief Monitor of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission in Ukraine, Alexander Hagel.
Dear friends, good morning. The situation in Donbass is worsening. I could go into details now, but I think we are all familiar with the details. It is enough to say that last week the SMM recorded a 10% increase in ceasefire violations compared to the previous week. The previous week in itself had actually seen a 50% increase on the week before that. The details are minutely documented in our daily reports, available to anyone online. In any case, I prefer not to go into details now because they distract from the more important story here, the victims. We rightly concentrate on the failure of the sides to withdraw weapons from the security zone, the continued use of those weapons, and the failure to separate the sides, and in some cases, positioning even closer to one another. Too often, however, we lose sight of the hardship, suffering, injury, and death that ensues. Dear friends, since I last spoke to you, our monitors have indeed seen much of this. On Sunday, in government-controlled Pervomaiske, for instance, they saw craters caused by 120mm mortars, one just 4 meters from a kindergarten building and another in an adjoining playground. Thankfully, the children were away on their summer holidays. A worker at the nearby industrial compound was not so lucky. Our monitors observed his bloodied body under the rubble, killed apparently by a collapsed roof. On the same day, in so-called DPR-controlled Dokuchaevsk, our monitors saw a tree in a children's playground 35 meters from a residential building, cut in two by a powerful impact. Remember, these incidents happened in the same week that the world marked International Day for the Protection of Children. I appeal to those firing and those ordering others to fire, many of them parents, to imagine if it had been their children in the playground in Dokuchaevsk or in the kindergarten in Pervomaiske. Three-quarters of all ceasefire violations last week were recorded in the Avdiivka-Yassinovata airport area. For people still living in this area in particular, this war is very much a daily reality. Many of them sit in basements praying for the day when their children can have normal, carefree lives. Other parts of the contact line are less violent, but far from normal. Last Wednesday, our monitors met some people in western Luhansk region. They told us that they were prevented by the so-called LPR from reaching Novo-Alexandrivka, the nearest settlement to them. This restriction on their basic right to move freely within their own country and even within their own locality means they have trouble accessing food and medicine. Their experience is typical of many others. The hundreds of people we see every day at checkpoints trying to enter or leave areas not controlled by the government tell a similar story. Not only do they face the same restrictions, they also face danger. On the same day we spoke to the people near Novo-Alexandrivka. Our monitors were also in government-controlled Marinka, just southwest of Donetsk. With more than 100 vehicles lined up at the Ukraine Armed Forces checkpoint there, our monitors heard a burst and 7 single shots of small arms fire coming from military positions 10 to 20 meters from the checkpoint. It is almost inevitable that there is outgoing fire and that leads to incoming fire. Thankfully, on that particular occasion, with so many civilians in very close proximity, there was no response from the other side. Dear friends, the good news from Marinka is that the gas pipeline repairs have been completed, with just gas pressure testing to be finalized. Potentially over 30,000 people on both sides of the contact line will benefit. I am particularly proud of the role of the SMM monitors that they have played there. They facilitated and coordinated with the sides to ensure adherence to the ceasefire. They also regularly mounted mirror patrols on both sides of the contact line to oversee the work. Worryingly, however, we have recently noted heavy fighting in the area. On Monday, for instance, our monitors recorded 117 explosions there. I hope at this late stage, just as the residents are about to finally receive gas, that the project is not derailed. At another crossing route on the contact line near Mayorsk, north of Horlivka, our monitors observed a dangerous new development. There, the so-called DPR built another checkpoint, placing themselves just over a kilometer from Ukraine Armed Forces positions. We have seen similar forward movements before, most notably in the Yasinovata-Avdiivka area, and we know where this will lead to. I hope that the hundreds and sometimes thousands of people queuing at the checkpoints in this area every day can be spared similar violence and risk. I cannot speak for the hundreds of thousands of people affected by this conflict, but I presume they would agree with me when I say that there must be an end to all of this. The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission is certainly willing and able to help. We have the human and technological resources. We have the political backing of 57 states stretching from Vancouver to Vladivostok. The sides, though, need only to allow us to do our job. That has not always been the case. In this respect, I'm specifically thinking about the recent shooting down of 2 of our long-range unmanned aerial vehicles. Apart from the financial loss and the direct attack upon the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission, their loss suggests that the sides are yet unable or unwilling to accept the help they clearly need, bringing this conflict to an end. Dear friends, for the sake of the children in Dokuchaevsk and Pervomaiske, I hope they will change their minds. As usual, at the end of my statement here, I would like to inform you about the latest mission numbers. As of today, the mission has 709 monitors, of whom 588 are deployed in the east, and in addition there are 310 good Ukrainian colleagues and 85 other international staff working for the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hook. Are there any questions? We have no questions, so at this point the press conference is finished. Thank you for coming and looking forward to seeing you here next week.
Thank you.